Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so as always, new champion buff is out here and we are going to be taking a look at how that buff fares damage wise, pre and post buff. Obviously, when we're talking about Spider-Man, the champion had barely any abilities and it's not that important how he did before buff. What is more important, whether he's good now, because before buff he didn't even have a single ability on his level 3, and his level 2 only ignores a bit of block proficiency, so that's basically nothing offensively. And the main points that Spidey could do before buff was level 1 can inflict weakness, critical hits can inflict armor break, and special attacks have 8% chance to give him a precision, which is quite sad. And then obviously his awakened ability was a Wade. So basically he was kind of like an empty shell of a character, indicament, legacy character from the very early days. And I'm not going to show the full fights of pre-buff Spidey, but what is important to note that he crits for 3k on mediums, 1800 on lights with class disadvantage, important to note. But there's just nothing else going on for him. We can see that if you are aggressive, he can maintain that armor break up for majority of the fight. Obviously, it is RNG relevant, but that was a level 2 from a rank 3 Spidey that hit for 6. And that's how the entire fight goes. There's no major increase in damage. It's just patiently and slowly chipping away at the champion. And eventually getting that Winter Soldier down. What is the most important thing, though, is it took 314 hits and 5 minutes and 36 seconds. Then I synergized him up, and a lot of those synergies are very interesting, that his abilities trigger, like with Shang-Chi on perfect dexes or perfect parries, and Black Cat on like wades and stuff. And this first fight is going to be a bit of a fail in a sense, because I was focusing on trying in my, cruelties from the synergies and everything else. And the end result was that I basically did the fight about as slow as I did before. Here we can see that I have perfect dodge. Now, the good thing is that these things last like 30 seconds. So I don't need to do it like all the time. But me wasting this time trying to activate those synergies ended up that, yeah, per hit, I will do more damage. But the end result was not the greatest. I'm trying to always maintain like 4, 5, 6 of these things when I strike Winter Soldier, and it's quicker by like 20 seconds. 213 hits though, and this first one was 300. So we can see that even fully synergized, it wasn't great. So this next attempt is still fully synergized, but I just decided to be as aggressive as I can and try and get any cruelties whenever I can, if I can. And this is, I think, pretty much the same. So I do hit harder at times. We can notice that, my mediums get like 4 or 5k at some points here, but it's still not going necessarily great. And soon we're going to get in that Assassin's Rage. So that was like light crit for 3.5k. So that's effectively double that his damage was. So it is better for sure, but still, even with that, me trying my best, 243 hits, 4.5 minutes, fully synergized Spider-Man 6-star rank 3, now granted with class disadvantage. And now the update has come. And with the update, obviously we know that he has gotten a brand new kit, and the biggest problem about Spidey, besides him having ramp up utility type, is that his damage in the beta definitely also seemed underwhelming. So what we're going to do here slightly differently, because I'm actually recording this live as I'm streaming, I'm going to showcase Spidey Synergized in 3 different matchups where he has class disadvantage, class neutral relationship, and class advantage. But in this first matchup with his new kit, that class disadvantage obviously is detrimental, but it's not even the worst thing. So his new hit lets him apply a ton of taunts on the opponent on his basic hits. That chance is increased significantly. If opponent is stunned, they accidentally do get smacked a bit. That's not too important. But the most important thing in his kit is that you need your level 1s to ramp up, and you need to activate at least 2 level 1s to basically access your utility. So after 2 level 1s, you will have 4 webbings. And I'm going to explain the extra abilities that we see here, because this is obviously fully synergized Spidey right now. But ideally, especially with synergies, you kind of want to throw like minimum 3, likely 4. 4 of your level 1s, but for now we are going to go with 3 and see if that sees us through. And before I go for my damage phase, I do want to go for a heavy attack. Now that was a 98k level 2, and that's quite solid, but this is in a matchup where basically everything has worked out pretty much perfectly for me. Now unfortunately, my 6th webbing was about to fall off, so I ended up going for level 1 just because of that, because there are synergies where it is required of you to have 6 or more webbing. So that, again, puts an extra requirement on you. But now we're going to see we're going 60k level 2, and the amount of damage you get from your level 2 depends on how many taunt debuffs you have on your opponent. So fully synergized Spidey post-buff hits a lot harder. 144, that's not bad. 117 hits with class disadvantage, no recoil, no boost, not bad. And that was with class disadvantage in a matchup where it's, not ideal. Now, this is going to be class neutral matchup. But it's important to note, again, this is with full synergy team. And that synergy team makes a bigger impact than it used to, and bigger than you think. And I'll explain that in a bit. So, again, we need to ramp up with a few level 1s, which unfortunately, if you need to throw 3 level 1s before you can access your damage, that pretty much makes the champion, for most part, quite unsuitable, let's say, for battlegrounds. Because even for champions like Penny Parker, if you need to go for 2 level 1s and then level 2, then in most cases, she's going to be slower than whatever you're facing up against. So that is obviously something that we're going to talk. But here we go, 3 level 1s. Now we're going to get a third. Oh, come on. Where's my evade? Making some silly mistakes here. But that's fine. We got some towns, 76k. And here is going to be the key aspect with Spider-Man. The more towns you get in, the harder your level 2 is going to hit. And in order to get all of these towns, you want to make sure that you parry stun in between. And now, because I did, I have some very good numbers. I have some very, very good numbers from this Spidey. And now we're going to go with class advantage and a bit of a showcase of his utility, because obviously after your first 2 level 1s, you will completely shut down opponents' evade, and you will completely shut down their unstoppable. So what we need, 2 level 1s. This is the first one, so I don't want him to use a special now. We're going to go for a second one. Sweet. Now he can go for a special. And he will, because of all the towns. Fine. We're going to throw another, at least one more level 1 needs to be thrown. Now here we go. Now I need to get in a parry, a heavy, and then we need to go for level 2. That did not hit too hard because I didn't have too many towns, but if I manage to be very, very fast now, I could get a very nice level 2, which again entirely depends on how many towns I will have. Unfortunately, just because I did not nail that parry, virtually all my damage ramp up has gone to wayside now. And that is one of the first problem where even with Synergized Spider-Man, damage output is incredibly dependent on you landing perfect parries and being able to be super, super fast and aggressive. So this fight effectively was about as fast as the previous one. Now for the bad thing. Because this was Synergized Spider-Man. And if he worked in his base kit similar to what we saw, I would be very happy about the buff. It would be an amazing buff. It would be a bit tricky. It would have its weaknesses, but I'd still like it. And the reasons for that is obviously his webbing was falling off slower because of Wolverine synergy. He got increased combat power rate because of Black Cat synergy. Whenever a perfect dexed or perfect parried, I was inflicting physical vulnerability on my opponent. Whenever I evaded or whenever I landed heavy attacks, I was inflicting another abilities that let me inflict more damage. And I'm sure that that is exactly what you are going to see in majority of the YouTuber videos. Oh my god, look at Spider-Man. He does 120k special attack when you're mega aggressive, fully synergized. Now, what I'm about to show you, unfortunately, is going to be the painful reality of the buff. This is a rank 3 6-star going up against Realms Legends Winter Soldier. The principle is basically the same. Again, we will not have access to the physical vulnerabilities. Whether I get perfect dexes or not is not important. What we will be able to do is we're going to be stacking towns. We're going to have access to Spidey's OG debuffs. And we still need to ramp up like we used to. Now, one upside from running him without synergies is the fact that I only need to maintain 4+ webbing to get all my utility kind of active. So with that, I'm not gonna necessarily need like 4 level 1s before I kind of proper get into the fight. But because they fall quicker, as we can see, some of my webbing is about to already fall off, so I definitely do need to go still for 3 level 1s. So even Kabam technically improved his utility by making his debuffs more potent and improved his ramp up speed. In practice, you still need that 3rd level 1. And now without physical vulnerabilities, I crit for 27k. And now without that, the rest of my damage as well, it goes to like 8k. Whilst opponent is stunned. Obviously, whilst opponent is not stunned, I actually hit weaker than I did before. That is the one thing that I don't understand because, well, I kind of do understand because I took away the armor break. Because before the buff, I'd actually hit for 3k on the mediums, as I showed in the showcase video. Now, $14k level 2, and that's because I didn't have a ton of towns, and I didn't have a ton of towns because Winter Soldier's specials take a while, and my towns expire, and if Winter Soldier doesn't come in for a parry perfectly every time, then obviously not great things happen. And you can see completely different image from what you saw before. It is still a playstyle which requires you to be super aggressive. Whoopsie. And now we can see that I actually also, on top of it all, need to throw another level 1 because like how to get out of my damage cycle because the webbing fell off. And he's tanky though. Now I'll give him that. But again, we got 27k. And we got like 5k mediums. Again, before buff, he was still hitting 3k mediums with that basic armor break on. And now we go. We have all the towns, obviously. Sweet. I do have max inequity, just so you guys know. Again, we go. 27k crit. That's sweet. But we have spent a while in this fight. Significantly longer than when he was synergized. Significantly longer when he was synergized. And now again. And There we go. So this is with class disadvantage again. 3 minutes 27. So bad. Now here's going to be the good thing, but within the good thing comes the bad thing. One of the reasons, besides the class disadvantage, why this fight took so long is because Winter Soldier's special attacks are quite long, and you can't be as aggressive. And when you're not as aggressive, it's harder to stack up many towns. So now when we're going to go without class disadvantage, and when we're going to go against a very basic champion who has quick special attacks, it is going to be better numbers, quite significantly better numbers. But keep in mind that almost all of the new champions have relatively long special attacks. Yeah, keep in mind that Captain Marvel Classic is like the quickest level 1 and level 2 in the game. And all of the new champions, all of the troublesome champions typically have relatively long special attacks in comparison to Captain Marvel. So this is like a perfect matchup in a sense that you're going up against a very basic champion with super quick special attacks that have no abilities that you need to play around. So this is obviously probably, I have not seen any CCP videos, but this is probably going to be the matchup that they show you. I doubt that many of them will show Winter Soldier, but probably most of them are going to show Captain Marvel Classic or something, or Deadpool, just because those are the type of matchups where he can shine. Now I had 26k non-crit, sweet, but because I'm able to be so much more aggressive, I consistently have more towns active. And because I'm able to get more towns, we're going to see that I can get better numbers. But if they don't crit, it's still not great. If that previous special attack crit, it probably would be like 80k damage or something. But again, that's only because I kind of had perfect string of parries. So I got 12, again, no crit. And, you know, I get in a 13k medium in a perfect situation, Realm of Legends, where I don't need to worry about baiting out, you know, specials and stuff like that. 2 minutes, that's about as good as you're gonna get. This is not an awful damage output, but it's in like virtually unrealistic situation where opponent has a super quick special attack. You don't need to worry about level 3s. You need to be, you can and be super aggressive. There are 0 abilities that you need to play around. And in that case, it can kind of work even without synergies. But in any real matchup, in any matchup where opponent's special attacks are average, in any matchup where they may have an ability that slows you down a tiny bit, it's not gonna be that good. It's gonna be quite atrocious, to be honest. Okay, so, well, and in this matchup, I suppose it's gonna be nice to still showcase that obviously he can still work as a unstoppable counter, 2 level 1s, and you don't ever need to worry about unstoppable. And that's fine. You will want to go for your 3rd level 1 to make sure that obviously that piece of utility stays. But again, this is an oversight, I think, with Kabam's buff as well. I think when they tuned up his debuffs, so that 2 stacks of debuffs are enough, they should have also tuned up that you get 3 webbing with your level 1. Because now the fact that you can access those debuffs slightly quicker, but are still forced to... Okay, this is going to be a good level 2. It didn't crit, but that was 50k non-crit. If that crit, that would have been a very big number. But now we can see that, you know, there were some decent damage numbers up there. But again, that's against Juggernaut, who also has like notoriously quick specials. and 83k crit. So we can see that, like, ideal circumstances, he can kind of do something. Realistically, though, when he was going up against Inter Soldier, or we can pick a random selection of champions where you can't be super aggressive, his damage output is ferocious. And in order to even get there is one. Yeah, in order to even get there, you need like 3 level 1s to ramp up his utility. The only saving grace for him, maybe, but he doesn't have high enough damage output even in an ideal situation. If you forego the utility, because in theory, there is, quote unquote, a saving grace that you could try, is not build up any utility and just try to taunt the opponents and go for level 2 direct. I will mess around with it later, but again, then, you know, he would be way worse version of Hulk, in a sense where you just try to get in as many parries as you can to get as many taunts as you can, and just go for level 2s and do not try to keep any webbing. And actually, we're gonna try that out with Synergies now, because that could be quite interesting. Before I finish the video, now the video has gone long enough. I might make another video where I just don't try to access any of his utility, and we just try to use level 2s instead of any level 1s. No, but Synergies require that he gets the 6+ webbing as well. I'll think about it, but ultimately what I'm trying to say is I don't think he's going to do well. That unsynergized damage in a realistic fight is just not going to go. I think there might be a few matchups or a few situations that he's good, but in general, I doubt that he's going to do anything for any experience playing this game. I hope I'm wrong. It's still early days, obviously. This is by no means any final judgment. Barely getting my hands on with him. But yeah, you know, if you synergize him up, get a perfect matchup, he can do some decent numbers. But in vast majority of the cases, it just will not work, because you need to be insanely aggressive and pretty much a full synergy team. Without a synergy team, even in a perfect match, his damage output is maybe slightly above average or average. But in any realistic fight, he's well below average, because there is such a huge difference what your damage output is based on the amount of taunts. And yeah, I am still, at the moment, not a fan of this buff at all. Who knows? Maybe it'll grow on me, but either way, let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the